The U.S. Marine Corps has long built its identity around expeditionary warfare, showing up first, hitting hostile coastlines, and carving out a beachhead while rounds are still flying. To pull that off, Marines have depended for decades on armored amphibious vehicles that can launch from ships at sea, push through rough surf, and keep fighting the moment they hit land. For years, that job belonged to the AAV-7 assault amphibious vehicle. Introduced in the 1970s, it became one of the most recognizable symbols of Marine amphibious doctrine. Over time, the AAV-7 started to show its age. It simply wasn't built to handle today's threats, especially improvised explosive devices and roadside blasts. It also fell behind in speed and agility, and its radios, sensors, and onboard systems couldn't keep up with the demands of a modern, networked battlefield. The Marines needed a new platform, one that could still swim in from offshore, but more importantly, keep its crew alive once the fight moved onto land. That need led straight to the Amphibious Combat Vehicle, better known as the ACV. It's the Marine Corps' newest armored ride, built to give Marines an advantage in the kinds of fights the future is likely to bring. At its heart, the ACV is all about balance. It has to meet the demands of operating at sea, while also surviving the harsh, unforgiving reality of mechanized combat on land. Very few vehicles on Earth are expected to excel in both worlds, and building something that can do it is a massive engineering challenge. The ACV had to do more than just float. It needed real buoyancy and seaworthiness, with the ability to launch from Navy amphibious ships several miles offshore and push its way toward land. But once it hits the beach, the mission flips instantly. It has to move Marines through tight urban terrain, shrug off roadside bombs, stand up to armor-piercing fire, and keep pace with tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. Packing all of those demands into one platform is exactly why the ACV became one of the most ambitious armored vehicle efforts in decades. The job of building it went to Before Anyone Else Systems, one of the biggest defense contractors on the planet, with Iveco defense vehicles in Italy supplying the core design. What they produced looks like a new generation altogether. It's nothing like the old AAV-7's boxy shape. The ACV has a clean, sloped bow to cut through water more efficiently, thick armor spread across the hull, and an overall layout engineered to balance protection with mobility. The ACV is basically a rolling fortress, about 30 tons of steel and systems, driven by a 700 horsepower engine. That power lets it reach roughly 65 miles per hour on land, and about 6 miles per hour in the water. Sure, those numbers won't wow anyone in a sports car, but for something that has to function as both an armored troop carrier and a seaworthy amphibious vehicle, that performance is a serious engineering feat. And the real headline isn't speed, it's survivability. Unlike the older AAV, which offered limited protection by today's standards, the ACV is designed to take hits from IEDs, roadside blasts, and even heavy machine gun fire and keep Marines alive. A big part of that protection comes from the V-shaped hull, which helps push blast force out and away from the crew space. It's the same survival logic behind MRAP-style designs that earned their reputation in Iraq and Afghanistan. Inside, Marines aren't sitting on basic benches. They're placed on blast-mitigating seats, built to cut down the injuries that explosions can cause. In terms of capacity, the ACV carries 13 fully equipped Marines, plus a 3-person crew enough to move a combat-ready element from ship to shore with far better odds of making it through. And then there's the tech. Unlike the older AAV, the ACV is packed with modern electronics. You're looking at updated battle management systems, secure communications, and digital connectivity that let Marines coordinate with nearby units, pass real-time information, and plug directly into the wider U.S. military network. That digital backbone matters more than ever. In a modern fight, knowing what's happening right now can be the thin line between getting out alive and getting cut off. So the ACV isn't just a box that moves troops. It's a moving part of the information war, built to stay connected and keep Marines informed under pressure. This is the shift a lot of people miss. In older eras, armor was the headline and radios were background noise. Today, connectivity can be armor. If a unit can see threats earlier, reroute faster, call for support sooner, and avoid walking into a trap, that prevents casualties before armor ever gets tested. Digital systems also support distributed operations. Small teams spread out over larger areas because they need a shared picture of the battlefield to move as one. In a world full of drones and long-range fires, the side that shares information faster often wins without ever firing the first shot. And once you stack it up against what came before, the advantage becomes obvious. The AAV-7 could haul more people, as many as 21 Marines, but it did it by accepting far less protection. On today's battlefield, that kind of trade-off just doesn't make sense anymore. There's a tough truth hidden in those numbers. Bigger capacity can create bigger tragedy if protection doesn't keep pace. Moving more people at once sounds efficient, until one blast turns efficiency into catastrophe. Modern design often spreads risk, prioritizes survivability, and accepts smaller bites of combat power in exchange for a higher probability that those Marines arrive ready to fight. It's not glamorous, but it's realistic, and realism saves lives. The ACV carries fewer passengers, but it makes up for that with tougher protection and a much higher chance of getting Marines through the danger zone alive. Put it next to platforms like Russia's BTR-82 or China's ZBD-05, and the trade-offs become clear. Those vehicles can be quicker in the water, but the ACV leans into heavier armor and more modern electronics built for a battlefield where connectivity matters as much as steel. That's the Marine Corps' mindset here. They're choosing survivability and networked warfare over raw swim speed, because once the vehicle hits the shore, the real fight is on land. And that choice is a statement about priorities. Water speed looks impressive on paper, but the Marine Corps is betting that the decisive moments happen after landing inside cities, along choke points, and under persistent surveillance. If the enemy can track movement with drones and strike with precision weapons, then the platform that stays protected and connected has the edge. It's the difference between showing up first and showing up ready. In a modern fight, arriving a minute earlier doesn't matter if you arrive blind, isolated, and vulnerable. And the ACV doesn't just replace hardware, it reflects a shift in doctrine. For decades, the image was huge amphibious assaults, with waves of armored vehicles surging onto a beach under covering fire. In today's threat environment, a classic, large-scale beach assault is a high-risk gamble. Modern anti-ship missiles and drones can punish anything that moves in predictable waves, so the Marine Corps is leaning toward a more distributed approach. Smaller teams land at multiple points, relying on rapid movement, low-signature tactics, and strong communications to stay unpredictable and outmaneuver the enemy. That's exactly where the ACV fits. It's not built for a Normandy-style mass rush onto the sand. It's built for precision landings, better survival odds, and seamless integration with a high-tech force. If you want a simple way to picture this, imagine the battlefield as a grid of cameras and tripwires. Mass assaults light up every sensor at once. Distributed operations try to move between the beams. That requires vehicles that can protect Marines, coordinate quickly, and adapt in real time. This is also where concepts like A2AD matter, areas defended by layered missiles, aircraft, and drones designed to deny access. In those zones, predictability is a weakness. The ACV is shaped by the need to stay unpredictable while staying protected. And on top of all that, the ACV isn't meant to stay one version forever. It was designed from the start to grow and adapt over time. The Marine Corps isn't treating the ACV as a single vehicle, it's building a whole family around it. One of the headline variants is the ACV-30, fitted with a 30mm cannon turret, pushing it closer to an infantry fighting vehicle that can take on enemy positions, light armor, and hardened targets. There's also an ACV command and control version, loaded with upgraded communications, so it can function as a rolling battlefield hub. And on the support side, the ACV recovery variant is built to assist damaged vehicles in the middle of combat zones. That modular approach means the ACV won't be a one-trick platform. It's a flexible lineup that can shift roles depending on the mission. This family of vehicles idea is a big deal because it reduces logistical chaos. Instead of fielding completely different platforms for every mission, you build around a common base that crews can learn, mechanics can maintain, and commanders can plan around. It's the military version of standardizing tools, fewer surprises, fewer unique parts, and faster adaptation when mission requirements change. For a force that prides itself on rapid deployment, that kind of flexibility isn't just convenient. It's operational power. And maybe the most interesting part of the program is how strongly it's been built around future growth, leaving room for upgrades as the battlefield keeps changing. The ACV was built with headroom extra internal space, electrical power, and a modern digital architecture so it can take upgrades for years to come. That future package could include active protection systems that intercept incoming rockets, remote-controlled turrets operated from inside the hull, or tight integration with drones that feed reconnaissance and targeting data straight to the crew. So, the ACV isn't just a right-now fix. It's a foundation meant to evolve as tomorrow's battlefield keeps shifting. And this is where the ACV becomes more than a military story. It becomes a lesson in designing for uncertainty. The smartest systems aren't the ones optimized for one perfect scenario. They're the ones built with margin, spare capacity, upgrade paths, and the ability to absorb shock without collapsing. That's a life skill too. Whether it's your budget, your schedule, or your personal health, the people who survive stress aren't usually the fastest. They're the ones with buffers. The ACV is basically the armored version of having an emergency fund and a backup plan. But of course, critics will tell you the same thing they say about every armored vehicle. Nothing is perfect. Some critics argue that even though the ACV is better protected, it pays for that armor with extra weight, especially in the water, making it feel less agile than the older AAV-7. Its swim speed tops out around 6 miles per hour, which is nowhere near China's ZBD-05. Often cited at 15 miles per hour in calm conditions. So, if you turn it into a straight-up speed contest, the ACV isn't winning any races. Supporters of the program push back with a different logic. They say speed in the surf matters less than what happens after landing, and that the ACV's real strength is staying alive while staying connected inside a modern combat network. Because in the end, a vehicle that reaches the shoreline faster doesn't matter much if it gets knocked out the moment it arrives. That debate, fast versus protected, shows up everywhere outside the military too. People chase shortcuts, rush decisions, and sprint toward goals without asking what happens if the plan gets hit by reality. The ACV argument is basically a reminder that resilience beats fragility. If you're building a career, a business, or even a daily routine, you want systems that can take a hit and keep moving. That means choosing durability, redundancy, and good communication over pure speed. And the ACV program hasn't been a smooth ride. In 2020, the Marine Corps temporarily paused ACV operations after multiple incidents in rough surf raised serious safety questions. Engineers went back to work, reviewing the issues and making design improvements before pushing forward again. That episode highlighted two things at once. Building a true sea-to-land combat vehicle is brutally difficult, and the Marines weren't willing to rush it into service without tightening the margins. Since then, updates have been implemented, and the ACV has been gradually fielded with Marine units. with full capability expected in the coming years. Pausing a program like that isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of discipline. It's the willingness to say, "We found a problem in the real world, so we're going to fix it before it costs lives." In engineering, that's how you avoid catastrophic failure. In everyday life, it's the same principle. When something repeatedly breaks your sleep, your finances, your focus, you don't just push harder, you redesign the system. The Marine Corps did that with the ACV because the surf zone doesn't forgive wishful thinking. Zoom out, and the ACV starts to look like a snapshot of how the US military modernizes. Not in one dramatic leap, but through steady, deliberate upgrades that fuse hard-earned combat lessons with newer technology. It's not the most showy vehicle you'll ever see, and it's definitely not built to be the fastest swimmer out there. But what it does represent is a carefully chosen balance: survivability, mobility, and room to adapt as threats evolve. And in a bigger sense, the ACV reflects how the Marine Corps itself is changing. Moving away from the old image of massive, wave-after-wave beach assaults, and toward a 21st century fight that's more distributed, more complicated, and driven by networks, sensors, and precision. That evolution is also about mindset. The modern Marine Corps is preparing for a world where the first shot might be a drone strike, where the coastline is watched by sensors, and where the enemy can reach far beyond the horizon. In that world, expeditionary doesn't just mean landing on a beach. It means being ready to operate inside contested zones, with fewer guarantees and more threats. The ACV is one piece of that puzzle, a tool designed to move Marines through the most dangerous transitions without losing the people inside. When you get to the bottom line, the amphibious combat vehicle is more than a simple swap-out for the aging AAV-7. It's a signal, a clear message that the Marine Corps is still built around amphibious operations, but it's reshaping that identity for the realities of modern warfare. The ACV is designed to do three things at once: keep Marines protected, keep them connected to the wider force through digital networks, and give commanders more flexible options from open water to inland terrain. It may not be the biggest platform, and it won't win a swim speed contest. But as a total package, it might be the most well-balanced and most survivable amphibious vehicle in service today. And balanced is the key word. Balance means you can handle imperfect conditions. Balance means you can take losses without collapsing. Balance means your capabilities still make sense when the enemy changes the rules. That's why the ACV is so interesting. It's not a headline-grabbing super vehicle. It's a practical answer to a brutal question: how do you move people from sea to land in a world that's watching, hunting, and striking faster than ever? As technology keeps moving forward, the ACV is set up to get even stronger and more capable. And that matters, because it helps ensure the Marines can keep earning their reputation as America's tip of the spear when it comes to projecting power from sea to shore. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the ACV? Drop your take in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe to Tech of War, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. And now, thank you and see you again on future journeys.